Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today's reading, we're looking at what new gifts are arising in you now. One absolutely important sort of primary gift, and then also a secondary, supplementary or complementary gift as well. So this could be in any area of life. It could be in your spiritual path, it could be creative, it could be around career, it could be around education, it could be around relationships. Could be a combination of all of those, but that's what we're just exploring in today's reading, what's sort of arising and how best to use that energy. And part of the inspiration for doing this reading came from this particular deck, which is going to be showing the primary gift, which is here, and then also underneath it a second card from the deck, intuitively chosen, which is the secondary gift. And I shuffled and asked Spirit for the ones for each pile here, so they're intuitively chosen as well. This is the Radiant Souls deck, which is the colourful, beautiful deck that came from Kat Crow, who is the creator of the Inner Mask Oracle deck, which I interviewed Kat not that long ago around that because the Inner Mask Oracle deck was on Kickstarter and I backed it. So for those of you who saw it, you'll note that that particular deck is monochromatic, sort of greys and whites and blacks. And she said her other work is very colourful, and this kind of proves that. So I purchased her other deck, the Radiant Souls deck, and while I'm still waiting on the Inner Mask Oracle, I thought, why wait in using this beautiful deck? And it's such an inspiration around the kind of energies that could be coming up in people, the sort of new gifts that could be arising. So that was the inspiration for this. So thank you, Kat, for that. So as I said, it's really just to look at the new gifts that are coming through, how they might manifest and how best to use them. I'll put down the numbers. You can, of course, go to more than one if you feel drawn to more than one. There could be a number of new gifts coming up and a number of supplementary gifts associated with that. But to help with the choice, I can say that this energy is part of the primary gift. So for pile number one, we have the poignant. So this talks about senses, harmony, resonance, and beauty. So it'll be something in that sort of space. For pile two, we have the instigator. This talks about rebellion, revolution, ignition, and undoing. So big change energy and a kind of catalytic sort of energy. And for pile three, we have the hidden, which is about shadow, night, darkness, the moon. So I think, shadow work, the underneath, the hidden, all of those sort of energies are something to do with a gift. So these are gifts. These are gifts. So this will be a gift to work with all that sensory information. This will be a gift to work with being a catalyst and an instigator. And this will be gifts that are around getting to the shadow, understanding the shadow, your own or others, and helping people with it. But I don't know what the secondary or complementary gift will be, and that will give us a bit more of a sense about what is arising in you and why, and then we will look at that in more detail with tarot and other oracle cards. So when you know what reading or readings you want to go to, the timestamps, as always, are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile one, to your reading. So as I said in the introduction, the card that you chose is a sense of the true main area of the gift that's arising. This card is a card that complements or supplements that energy. So you have the poignant, which is all about sensory information. As I say, harmony, beauty, resonance. This is all about connection with others, connection with the world, connection with spirit. And there is, as it says, a poignancy, a kind of delicacy to this. So this tells me that you're finely attuned to deal with others, to deal with situations, to read a room, to understand the energies that are around you. A lot of a sense of psychic downloads coming to you potentially. Maybe this is something new, or maybe it's a new way that you're experiencing it. I get a sense of a lot of colour, a lot of energy around this. It might be, picking up kind of clairvoyant senses or starting to read auras, that sort of thing. We are going to look at both how this gift operates in the material world, and we're also going to look at it, how it is complemented by spiritual gifts and so forth. But I do get a sense of a lot of energy coming in and a finely tuned sense of that and how to harmonize it. So this could play out in a career, in doing anything to do with relationship management, with negotiation, with mediation, with peacemaking, any of those sort of things. If it's creative, it's bringing together a lot of, I think, artistic sensibilities in a very beautiful, finely drawn sense. So it depends on how it's playing out, but there is something very beautiful and poignant. It's got it's almost like music playing in a minor key. It's very beautiful, and it kind of takes you to a place that is a little bit sad, but is also very, very rich for understanding the nuances of relationships and people around you. So there's something around that. There's a fine-tuning your energy. And the interesting thing is that the supplementary or complementary gift, we have the disquietening, which is about hesitation, separation, tension, fear. I think that this is a capacity to pick out what is good and what is shadow in energy. And it's like you have a sense of it, like on a very, very finely tuned energy, so that when something is disquietening, it tells you that something needs to be done. It tells you that either a tension or a fear needs to be released so that something is better understood. It tells you maybe to stop and think before acting. It tells you when things are wrong to separate. So I feel that this is primarily a gift which is about connection with others, as I say, whether it's through spiritual connections or whether it's through relationships or it's in a workplace. And I feel it's like an incredible antenna for what is really going on. I think you would be the natural person to be able to say, this person is a good person to have in a group, this person isn't. This is a good project to do, this isn't, because you pick up the nuances and you do it by having this radar for when things need to be understood. But I think sometimes it's to release a fear. Sometimes this sort of thing would be to understand that the disquiet that people feel is around something ending and finishing, and fear being released and tension being released, just as much as it could be where something does need to separate. But I think you have an incredible sense of timing and an incredible sense of the nuances of energy. And you will have probably had this to some degree, but it's in this reading, it's becoming very important. So I feel that this is also saying that all of you in one way or another are in a situation that is complex, or you're going to be in a situation that is complex. It calls upon your capacity to gently but precisely judge the environment you're in and work out what to do with any energy that is not feeling supportive. And I think you'll be a leader in that. So I think this is all around human relationships in one form or another. And as I say, understanding how powerful your antenna is, and it's going to become more and more powerful. So let's get a little bit more information. So I'm going to ask a little bit more about this key gift, the poignant, and then we're going to ask about how this energy, the disquietening, adds to that gift or complements it. And then we're going to ask about how to apply it and what areas in your life it is most going to apply to. So more about the poignant, more about this incredible antenna, this sort of sense for where harmony and resonance is and where beauty and balance can be found. King of Pentacles reversed, Nine of Swords reversed, the High Priestess reversed, the Lovers, the Nine of Cups reversed. Okay, I think that most of you, I think why we've got poignant there. Poignant, as I say, it makes me think of music in the minor key. It makes me think of things that are almost a little bit bittersweet, but tending more towards the sweet than the bitter, but it has that edge, which is why we've got the disquietening as well. This looks to me like this gift is coming through because of a change in some long-term circumstance. Like in a workplace, this could be a change in the guard in terms of management. It could be, businesses changing in some way. There's something that's been in place for a long time, but it's caused in its change, and this change process is occurring, it has caused anxiety. So some of how this is going to come out is you can surface that because of your antenna. It doesn't have to be so much of a mystery. It doesn't have to be all fearful. You're actually extremely good at helping people move past the fear and the tension associated with this because of how finely tuned it is. You can actually see where good connections can be made, where good decisions can be made, and where things aren't hitting the spot in terms of dreams and wishes of others. So I feel like this is all coming up because of a change energy in some way around you. And as I say, it could be relationships, it could be career, it could be anything. We are going to look at it around all those sort of areas. But I feel that this is really about you being able to understand and live in the situation that the disquietening here is talking about. But because you're so nuanced, you're able to relieve the tension. It's because you can actually see. So if this was, for instance, with the King of Pentacles reversed, the end of a relationship, the end of connections, a family breaking up, as I say, a workplace breaking up, you can see what is sort of like beautiful that is being let go of, but what also can come in, and you can bring that energy up so that people can make decisions and not stay stuck in their anxiety. So I think this is you being the moderating emotional force. And as I say, because this is new coming up in you, you might not realize how good you are at it until you're actually in this situation and you're faced with I think, helping others. So let's see how the disquieting operates. So I do think it's already being picked up here that you're being called upon to use this primary skill to deal with this supplementary skill to help people process that kind of shadow energy. But let's see what else the tarot tells us. Six of Wands, Four of Cups, Two of Wands, Five of Wands reversed, Four of Wands reversed. Okay, there's a lot about ego in this. I think this is why your tenderness and your sensibility and your nuance and all this is so important in this environment, because there is something, whatever is causing this energy, that is calling upon you to be able to deal with disquieting sort of information, feelings, environments. There's a lot about who's winning, whose sort of vision is being taken forward, and where are there petty squabbles. This does feel a lot like a workplace where there's a lot of change going on, there's a changing of the guard, and there's just a lot of, like they say, storming, forming and norming going on. So there's something about ego, there's something about action, and there's so many wands in this. And it's early in the stages. This is where you can actually nip this in the bud, because we've got, like, you know, the 2, the 4, the 5 and the 6. So we haven't sort of got up to the 10, for instance. So this is you being able to nip in the bud ego clashes and ego issues that are getting in the way and causing emotional blocks. So you're able to, even if you're right in the middle of this, your gift is to be able to step separately out of it and to not see this as a ego thing, but see it as something, or about who wins or who loses, but take the pettiness out of it and like therefore relieve the tension and so forth. So it's definitely playing out in an unstable environment where a lot of people go into their ego and into I want to win to deal with fear, but you've got this delicacy to be able to deal with it. So let's ask, I'm going to ask for 3 cards for how to apply, and then 3 cards for what aspects in your life it's most impacting, or you're most going to see it. So firstly, just 3 cards of advice about how to apply the primary and the secondary skill here. The Chariot, the Devil, oh my goodness, I think a lot of this is around work, the Hanged Man. Okay, so how to apply, moving forward into your destiny. You're in this position for a reason. I do think for many of you this is around work, or it's around something, as I say, very well established. It could be a shift in a family dynamic, it could be a shift in a friendship dynamic, or even a business, like business energies changing in some way if you're running a business rather than being an employer, or employee. This is you moving into your destiny, understanding that there's something about this skill that's coming out that's going to become more of what you can make with your career. But it's a different way of looking at things. You haven't seen yourself in this role before. You're naturally suited to it, but this is what's arising. And it's arising because of all these ego issues and all these battles and like what's going on, as I say, on a very material level. This is what brings you towards your destiny. So the advice is just to move forward and look differently at it. In fact, your capacity to look differently at this, your capacity to be in the midst of the storm basically and feel okay because you can sense like where to go and what to do, takes away the shadows, takes away all that sort of energy. So it's just embrace it, just trust it. Let's see what areas in life in particular this is going to play out in, at least first. Because, of course, once you've got a skill, you can use it in all sorts of areas. 10 of Wands reversed. Queen of Swords reversed. The Empress. Okay, so that's interesting. I think that there's something here about looking at where there is too much effort. I think for most of you this is going to be around career or something like that. I mean, it could be family, but I think for most of you it's around career. Where this is going to manifest is you finding where there's too much pressure. And it's coming from an internal critique and internal fear and turning that around into abundance, turning that around into what it could be rather than all the things it isn't. So there's just a sense that you're in an environment where there's lots of change going on, or there needs to be change. Like things have got stuck and people are just sniping at each other. And so your pathway here is to find the way through all particularly the egoic sort of battles, but all the stuff that's bearing this down and all the critique energy. There's a lot of critique energy in this. This is where people do that when they go into fear. You don't, because you're nuanced. This is the point. This is why you're able to deal with it. And then with the Empress, you can bring in the abundance. You can bring in a new kind of energy. But it's being able to sort of face this environment without fear, and relieve the tension. That's what you're going to find that you can really do. And I do think, like, it looks like somewhere contested, and it feels primarily like work. So what we also want to do is we want to have a look at it on like 4 different levels around the 3D. So career, relationship, general wellness, and your lifestyle, because it could impact on any of them. And I'm going to pull a card for each, the main one and for the secondary, because I feel that secondary here is describing more about how you're adept at dealing with an environment that most people aren't. So let's draw a card for each of them around career, because I do think for many of you that's where this is going to play out. So let's see the energy around that at the moment. So around the poignancy, inner conflict. Yeah. See, I think this is saying your barometer is yourself. You see how everything's coming down within that person? There's a sense where you can sense the conflict, and in knowing that and understanding that, you better understand the conflict that's going on outside. But it's like that's probably why it's a new skill arising, because you probably felt conflicted before, but now there's something that you're recognizing, something, as I say, that you're seeing that other people can't see. So let's see how it plays out around the secondary one, which is being in this tense, fear-filled, critique-filled environment. Connection. Yeah, it's making the right connections. The Empress will make connections. The Queen of Swords will cut connections. So you make the connection between your own inner conflict, and the nuances of that helps you help other people, connect with other people to go through this. So definitely you're your own barometer, and you will be your own barometer if this plays out around career. Let's see around relationships, because like whether or not it's in career, it's also going to touch relationships. So a little bit more about the poignant in terms of relationships. Connections again. Yeah, you're all about the connections. All about the connections. Connection within yourself, connections with others. You're meant to be a kind of leader in this space, pile 1. And then around dealing with the disquieting. Criticism. Yeah, it's knowing, this is the Queen of Swords. Connect rather than criticize. Understand rather than critique. That's what this is basically saying, and this is what you're able to do, and it's an unusual skill in this environment, whatever the environment is. Let's have a look around general wellness, how this impacts your general wellness and the wellness of the environment. So the poignant around that. Treatment. Okay, yeah, there is some treatment necessary. It might be for you. You need to go within yourself, deal with your own inner conflict, and give yourself time out. But I think that overall there is something healing about your energy. I think that's what we're seeing. And then with the disquieting, with dealing with that type of energy. Skin issues. Okay. So this might be very, very specific. It might be that you or others around have skin issues that have to do with stress. It might also be that that's a barometer for you to know when you're getting somewhere. You know, if you have a tendency for it to like play out in your body, then you may well be able to tell when you've actually found the things that you need to let go of and release, and the things that you can move forward with, or you may even see it around other people. And then lastly, in lifestyle, so around using the poignant energy, this beautiful subtlety that you have, how that plays out for your lifestyle. Interaction again, yeah, it's all about connection, it's all about relationship in one form or another. And for dealing with the difficulty of whatever this environment is around lifestyle. Challenge, yeah, that's the challenge. So it may be saying for many of you it's actually more in something like personal relationships if the challenge is showing around lifestyle, but it might also be that your own lifestyle, whether it plays out in career or whatever, becomes the challenge, like making the changes and disconnecting when you need to and moving it through. So again, maybe the skin issues become a good barometer for you about when that's working for you and when you need to kind of go within and go back to the first principle of the inner conflict to then work out how connections need to operate. So it's all around a challenging environment, a critical environment, but how to make the right connections with people and how to therefore heal other people. That's the skills that we're looking at. So let's have a look for each of them with 3 cards from a spiritual gifts deck to see what spiritual gifts or energies apply to these. So firstly, for the poignant gift, Ascension Path 6, chemical ether light quota in the body is 33%. So this is about connecting on a mental level, on an ether level, on an etheric level. So again, it's about connection. 6s are often about community and groups. So this is not something you do on your own. You use yourself as a barometer, but you have to do it within an environment. Then we get indigo child. So some of you may be an indigo child. There's lots of generations in this. This one is born between 1988 and 1998. So it may be a confirmation that this is an indigo ability that's coming through. But even if you're not in that time frame, I take any time indigo child turns up as an indication that you have psychic gifts that are being brought to bear. And clairaudience. Now that makes sense. So I do think clairvoyance, aura reading, but clairaudience makes sense with something that is so communication and connection involved. So your capacity to sort of hear things, like downloads and so forth, will help you with understanding and attuning yourself to this gift. And then the gifts to help with the disquieting, how you deal with that sort of environment. Life path 2, the partner, it's connecting. It could also be that a significant relationship is going to come out of these skills coming through, but it's also like this is how you partner with people. You're the great negotiator, the great collaborator, the great mediator. And we have numerologist. Okay, pay attention to numbers. In fact, I'm feeling like if this is in a work environment or in some sort of negotiation, or political or social thing, the numbers matter. Like understanding the numbers will make you be able to attune and, like who's with who, I mean by that, like in the way they talk about the numbers politically. And indigo child again, Omega generation born between 1998 and 2008. So again, like in both of these things, in dealing with the environment and also in the sensitivity that you have to people, there are psychic gifts associated with this. But over here in the environment, it's understand the numbers and understand who to connect to. Over here, it's what are you hearing to listen within, and understanding that there's something about community for what you do. Okay, so let's also get you a wild card for each of them. I always like to do a wild card around these sorts of readings because it gives us just a different perspective. So a different perspective around the poignant, around your superb, nuanced inner sensitivity. Pile 1. The mermaid and the puppet, two-faced manipulation, love, inaccessible heart fascination. Okay, so it's very interesting, very similar colouring. I think that some of this, for some of you, it could be about sorting your way through a relationship and deciding whether to stay with it or move on and having the courage to do that. That could definitely be that, but it could also be helping other people who are dealing with exactly that thing. There's definitely something about manipulation and something about environments that are conflict and ego based. So this sort of sensitivity to understand where there's an agenda under everything and people are trying to manipulate others, I think that's what it's talking about. It's one of the things that you can really see. And then with dealing with the environment, like the skill to deal with the environments that are full of fear and criticism. I am enlightened, wisdom, spiritual knowledge, ability, expertise, knowing that you can do it, knowing that you see this thing clearly. That's why you can do it. And it's all coming as a download into you. So you're very, very clear on that. And, you can trust what you believe is going on. Because as I say, you've got a sensitivity that is acute. It's really, really, that's the skill. You're going to realize how brilliant you are at this. Okay, let's get you just a little bit of astrology as a guide around this, and then we'll close out with a blessing. So astrology to guide you. Trine, it's all about, number one, this is going to be easier than you think because you are so beautifully attuned. That's what it's saying. But it's also about finding the balance in things, and a strong balance. A triangle is the strongest form, in geometry, as I understand it. So there's a sense of strength in harmony. Secondly, 4th house, who you are at home, who you really are. This could impact for some of you home life. It could be around family stuff. That did come up before. It could be working from home, or it could be making sure that what you're doing becomes core to you. And the 7th house, and partnership, connection. it could, for some of you, this could be about bringing in the good love after one that wasn't good and like getting rid of that energy. And that's a very good promise of that, like those two together in particular. But for others of you, it's about partnership all over, like really good connections and so forth. That's what all this is about. So let's just finish with a blessing for how these skills will manifest for you. A blessing to heal a relationship. Okay, so for some of you, it may be about a very specific relationship. It could be relationships within that. It could be more than one relationship. It could be deciding which ones to move forward with and not. This is it. You are brilliant at this, pile one, and more than you think. This skill is arising, and your acuity to this is arising, and you will be very healing. But it's a tricky environment. It's a tricky set of relationships, whatever it might be, but this is the ultimate blessing of it all. This is what you can do a lot better than most people. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the instigator, which, as I said in the introduction, looks at things like rebellion, revolution, undoing, ignition. It's like moving out from the past and anything that isn't working anymore, igniting the future. So there's something about like being a bit of a catalyst for change, taking things forward, the sort of primary force, whether it's around a relationship, creativity, work, whatever it might be. There is an opportunity coming for you where you're going to instigate something new, and it's something that's very passionate to you, something that probably came out of frustration, to be honest, with the sort of sense of rebellion and revolution, wanting to change, wanting something new, wanting to bring in something new. And that is a very fiery and passionate and powerful energy that's coming through. So you're going to inspire others, I believe, and you're going to catalyze change. The secondary element to this, or the complementary gift, we've got the reflector. It talks about distance, insight, guidance, and receptivity. I feel like what this is saying is that this skill is born of a sense of frustration or just a drive for the new. What will complement and help you is the capacity to always be a little bit detached, to have the right sort of insight and distance to understand what you're doing. One of the things that can happen when we are instigators, when we are causing change, and particularly when it's rebellious or revolution, is that we almost have a antagonist or a old order that we want to move out, and it's fairly typical to kind of want to burn it out, to almost demonize it. It's very important, therefore, not to become a new version of the thing that we're trying to change. And this secondary gift will help you do that. It gives you a kind of a higher order guidance and insight, a spiritual connection to what you're doing. This is like fire, this is like air, but it also gives you that detachment and the capacity to be receptive. So although you're the instigator, you're not going to try and be the boss to the sense of only my way or the highway. You are actually going to be open to other ideas, connections with others. And you will be able to reflect back on yourself and on them what is and isn't in alignment with what the real change that is trying to happen. So it's important. It's a kind of a dispassionate energy here, and a capacity to understand yourself and others and reflect it against what it is that you're trying to instigate. So as I say, you don't become the thing that you despise, the thing that you're trying to change. So let's have a look with tarot. We want to have a look firstly with a bit more about this primary energy, this primary gift. Then we're going to look at the supplementary. Then we're going to have a look at how best to apply it, and also what areas in life these gifts are likely to most show up initially. So firstly, a little bit more about the instigator. What's going on there, pile 2? The Hierophant reversed, the Three of Wands reversed, the Fool, the Starr reversed, the Two of Cups. All right. So as I say, my feeling very strongly with that kind of energy is that you don't have that energy unless there's something that you're pushing against. And it seems to be either very conventional things and you want to do something in a very different way, or it's potentially spiritual, like moving from something very conventional spiritually to something that's a little bit more true to you. But there's something where you have a very different approach to the traditional. And that's, so it's overturning something. This gift helps you overturn that, because there's something about what would have been conventional which was not the right path for you. So this is about understanding. It's like you have to do this. You have to instigate this, because otherwise you would be caught in a trap of something that was not your path. once you do that, you can move forward with confidence with the Fool. You don't have to have all the answers yet, particularly because you have this secondary skill. As you go along the path, as you sort of burn out the past and start moving forward, you've got the capacity, and we'll look at that in tarot as well, to have that distance lens perspective kind of energy. What it is saying, though, is that why this is going to be so important is there is a little bit of a risk for you that if you burn out all the relationships and so forth and connections that were involved in what this was before, you may not actually follow your North Star in the way that you think. So that it does feel like this has come from frustration. So, it could be, I'm finally leaving home because I just don't fit in here and I want to do something different. And if you burn out all the relationships, you may not fully get where you want to go. If it's a workplace, I'm leaving the workplace, but there's actually connections that are worth still having, because even if they're not on exactly the same path, they are somehow connected to it. So this is just Spirit saying that you're right to be wanting to move away and do something new, and you'll be on a path that's right for you. But really call upon this second skill, because there is a bit of a risk of burning out relationships and therefore not fully following your North Star. So, because maybe you've been disillusioned. It could be a disillusionment with a relationship or set of relationships that's done it. But it's like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say. Like there's sort of like reflect on that. So let's see what Spirit has to say about the reflector as the supplementary or complementary skill. The Emperor reversed. The King of Wands reversed. Wow, okay. The Empress. The Hanged Man reversed. The Chariot. Wow, this is powerful. We've got like 4 major arcana and then a king. I'm not surprised. There's something that you're really rebelling from, something, and it could well be. I mean, like, those classically could be something like leaving home or disconnecting from family sort of traditions and all that kind of thing, particularly from, if we're going to look at the two, the more emperor-like side of the family, which, might be the father, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, those roles aren't necessarily gender specific. But there's something here where I think you have to do this because you've understood there's something about the environment you're in that you're never going to be able to be your own master, your own sovereign to that. So it's like, and there's anger, but anger can sometimes be a very refining fire to move forward. But there's something like that going on. And for you to create what you want to do, then you need to understand that dynamic. But it's also to understand to create that dynamic as opposed to that dynamic. This is what this is talking about. The Empress, thinking of it as the divine feminine, as the nurturing, caring sort of side of that dynamic. As I say, not necessarily your mother compared to your father, though if that applies, that applies. But there's something here about this ability is going to help you not become what you've left, because it brings in a receptive and divine feminine energy. It brings in a different perspective that allows you then to follow your destiny. Because as I say, it's almost a sense of restriction that you have to break out from. And it's true, you do, but there's a sense that you could be embittered and cynical, when this is saying don't be cynical. Have the insight around there, get the distance to allow yourself to see this so that you're creating something that is different rather than recreating that energy just in your terrain, so to speak. And it's something any of us who work in change have to be aware of. We have to be aware that there is always a risk we could become the thing that we're trying to fight. So there's some energy associated for you. So let's look at 3 cards for how best to use these skills, and then 3 cards for what areas of life are going to be particularly impacted. So 3 for how best to use the skills. 9 of Pentacles reversed. 9 of Wands reversed. Queen of Wands reversed. Okay. All right. So this is the point. There is something breaking away from others' traditions, all of that sort of stuff happening, and it's the point where you have to do it. You're not wrong to be doing it, but it is saying you can't just do this all on your own. That's why it's important to connect with the right, and that's why don't be cynical about all relationships. And there may be a period of time where you're having to just be a little bit careful about what you say and do and not show everything that you're doing. It's a transitional time. So if you were leaving, a hierarchy of some sort, it's like it may be that you can't do this on your own, yeah, you need to like wait till you get the next job or something like that before you can walk. So you're just being careful around what you're seeing and so forth. It might be saying that where you can instigate and bring in the new is not where you are. You need to leave that, but maybe it's going to take a little bit of time to do it. But whatever it is, you do need other people. And so you have to make sure you don't, as I say, you don't recreate this energy. Because this is powerful. You're powerful. You're very charismatic. But it's like dial that down a bit, because otherwise you could become, as I say, the new version of the thing that you're trying to rebel against. So let's see what aspects of life this is particularly. This is why this is so important. The reflector is going to help you. You have that as a skill. But it's just Spirit saying this is why it's important. There's so much fiery energy for you. Let's see what aspects of life this most plays out in. Page of Cups reversed. Eight of Wands reversed. Queen of Swords reversed. Okay. All right. So I do think that some of you, whether or not this is literally around leaving family patterns, and I think for some of you it may be, but even if it isn't, I think there's family patterns that are replaying in something like a workplace or something like that. This just feels like issues around parental sort of figures that were not necessarily this nurturing empress thing. It was more around ego and critique. And so this is playing out in you being able to look at how to liberate environments that are very similar to this and reconnect to the heart. So that's why it's very important for you to connect to the Empress and not to a Queen of Wands reversed or a Queen of Swords reversed. This is like being in an environment that's very stuck, very hierarchical, very ego-based. And there's a critique energy. And this is like, you are meant to break free of this, but this this is not a heart energy. That's why it's important to reflect and be receptive and to be open to heart energy. Because the environment, you do need to shift or change, whatever this is. And if it is around sort of family stuff, you need to find a place and a way to have your heart and to look for what you want in your heart and to liberate that rather than listen to the critique that might have come from parental figures. So, as I say, it could be career, it could be relationships, it could be anything. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to look at those aspects. So on a 3D level, we're going to use the Heart Code Oracles. I'm going to start with a card for each around career, then relationship, wellness, and lifestyle. So around the instigator, this primary gift that's coming up to sort of burn out the past and bring in the new, what is the energy that could show in a career or vocation? Inner conflict. That's interesting. That came up for one of the others. So in exactly that spot. So there is something about an inner conflict here between divine feminine, divine masculine, between what you want to burn out and what you want to create. And as I say, not creating it. But that's where you can actually find, this is where the reflector operates. It's like this primal energy comes from conflict, but the reflector as the supplementary thing will help you understand how to not recreate the situation. So let's see how that plays out for career or vocation. Trust. Yeah, it's who can you trust? Trust yourself, trust your guidance, trust your understanding of things. And who can you trust? You can trust some people. Not all of this environment is bad. So speaking of that, let's have a look at the energy around relationships. So the energy around relationships for the instigator. Bystander, okay. So this could be a few things. Number one, you could be frustrated as hell because there are some people who are just kind of bystanders and won't get involved. And that might be why you're a little bit cynical. You might think like it's obvious, why aren't people getting involved? So that could be going on, and this could be the conflict around it. And it might be that, you know, this skill is going to help you find the ones who aren't. If you feel you've been a bystander because of inner conflict, then the relationship energy is going to push you out of that because this is too fiery. You're going to need to change. Let's see how the reflector skill helps. Confront. Yeah, it'll make you confront something. But also confront your own inner conflict. Confront who you can trust, and confront if you felt like you were a bystander or that you felt that some people are bystanders and they're not pulling their weight. Whatever it is, this is going to help you balance that out and work out who to trust and who to confront. Let's see around wellness, how the instigator energy is helping your inner sense of wellness. Surrender. Okay, yeah. You need to surrender to whatever this is. This change is inevitable, but also surrender to the power within to understand all the nuances of this. And digestion. Okay, you may find your digestion is a good barometer for you when things are right or wrong. Like, what can you stomach? What can't you stomach? That may actually help you work through the energy. Excuse me. So let's also look at lifestyle. So how does the instigator energy and skill play out in lifestyle for you? Interaction. Yeah, connect, not being such a bystander. Maybe you have watched this for a long time and you've reached boiling point. Or as I say, other people have just not been prepared to get involved. You might have to sometimes surrender for your own sort of well-being and go, if they aren't going to catch the train, they're not going to catch the train. I've got to work out who to interact with. And so then the reflector will help with that. So that energy shows vulnerability. So, okay, I think the digestion here, like when you feel you can't stomach something, there's some sort of vulnerability that you need to be aware of. It could be where you don't confront things or you were a bystander. It could also be understanding that sometimes people aren't as fiery and passionate as you and can't do it. So it's like working out, it's a balance. There's going to be people, don't get too cynical about everybody, but equally don't let other people's critique get in. Because this reflector is meant to help you deal with where you could feel vulnerable in this. And I think that the digestion is going to sort of tell you, it's going to be a bit of a barometer for you. So let's also have a look at some spiritual gifts and energies for both the instigator and the reflector. So firstly, for the instigator. Ascension Path 3, air, in breath, decodes energies. Like, yeah, I take a breath. Also, air is the thing that feeds the fire. So beliefs, I think, understanding your beliefs and making sure they're aligned to your highest good. 6, Ascension Path 6, chemical ether. So yeah, again, it's sort of like, that's in connection with others too. So it's like the communication and connection with others is important. You can't just do this all on your own. And paternal side, spiritual gifts. Okay, so there's something about, there's been something about the paternal and maternal. So there are actually gifts. This is the thing. Spiritually, you have gifts probably coming through whatever would be seen to be the paternal side or that kind of energy. That's why it's possible you could become the same thing. But if you connect to community and you take a breath and you reflect, then those gifts can be used in a positive way for you. And in terms of the spiritual support around the reflector, psychic medium. Okay, so you have those abilities. You can connect in with others. And maybe even connecting with ancestral lines to sort of find the true you if you feel like there's something in your family patterns that you need to shift. Pendulum reader, scrying, yeah, so you can do this sort of work, you can do pendulum work, you can do medium work. You're very, very psychic. And Ascension Path 8, mental plane. Yeah, so there's something about beliefs. This is all about beliefs, and there's hard work associated with 8 too. So this is like, this is not easy, but you have all the guidance that you need. Like, pay attention to your guidance. That's very, very powerful. Okay, so I also want to get a wild card for each of these, wild card energy around the instigator and the reflector. So a wild card energy to bear in mind around your gift to be the instigator. I am moving between worlds, along the path, milestone, travel. Yeah, you are moving. You're going, the Fool we saw earlier, you're on a new path. Just keep moving, just keep doing. You can reflect, you can balance everything out, but don't let things stop you. And then the reflector, which will help you nuance things as you go along the path, the energy that we get is spirit has my back, spirit guide, protection, superior help, reassurance. Yeah, psychic medium may be something from your ancestral line on your paternal side, but you certainly have spirit guides that are going to help you. So don't worry about that. I think it's much more just making sure that you don't kind of, as I say, replicate what it is that you're trying to move out of. And this is not meant as a criticism. This is a very big risk everybody has in this sort of thing when you're a change agent. But you certainly have the supplementary skill here and the spiritual support to make sure that doesn't happen. Let's get you some stars to guide you on the way to pile 2. Fixed. Okay. Yeah, so this is why this is coming up. This is why we got fire and air, because this is more like earth. So I mean, fixed stars or fixed signs are all the different signs, but there's a sense of what doesn't change. So when you change, what doesn't change? You know, like, what do you take forward from it? What is worth taking forward? What isn't? What would you want to now become the new normal? That's what you need to sort of be aware of. It's not just, I'm going to fight the old. It's like, what would I take forward? What would I leave behind? What is the new normal? We have water. Emotion is really important with that. So you've got air and fire there. Like, what does your heart say? What do your emotions say about that? That'll be a really good barometer for you. And Uranus, yeah, because you're a change agent. And this isn't going to be the first change either. It's part of who you are. This gift, once you know it, is part of who you are. Okay, so let's just finish off with a blessing for you around bringing these gifts in. A blessing to shield and safeguard you. So yeah, you're going to, this is, you know, change agent, and that's what you are. It's never an easy thing, and there's often conflict, and there's often all sorts of like other people to deal with. And your own internal stuff and your own inner conflict and what you deal with. But you're going to be safeguarded. It fits with the spirit has my back. I also feel that these ravens are like psychopomps. They're like the psychic medium energy connecting you to that sort of guidance as well. But you will be protected during this. So that's not the issue, really. The issue is to make sure that you do this to your highest good and the highest good of others, so that your change is truly revolutionary in its most, and evolutionary in its most positive way. So I hope that resonates for you, Pole 2. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pole 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the hidden, and as I said, that sort of sense to me in the introduction that this is one of your gifts, or the gift that's really arising in you, is a capacity to get into the underneath of things, the hidden, the shadow, all of that kind of thing, to be able to, and very strong sort of psychic sort of connection, but connection, you know, like the sight and so forth, and night, like that kind of sense of being able to deal in that space. And it's interesting, therefore, that your secondary or complementary skill that's coming up is the compassionate. So this is love and things being familiar and emotion and home. So I feel that there is something for you coming up where you're going to help others deal with that which is in the shadow for them, that which is difficult. If this is work that you want to do spiritually, psychically, therapeutically, you're absolutely going to have the gifts arising that you need to do it. If it's in relationships, if it's in a family or a relationship where things seem to be very hidden and very shadowy, then with compassion you can draw that out, and you can do it with great love. There's a very beautiful energy about you, actually. It's sort of capacity to go into the night because you're so full of the light and so full of compassion. And it's people like you that can deal with that, because there is a kindness connected to this. You can see the shadow, but you have a very compassionate and beautiful way of expressing it and helping others. If people are very blunt around that, it can be, people will just shut down. But you come from a compassionate heart. It comes from love. It comes from wanting to help what you see and what you can sort of show others, and your own sense of your own shadow and how you have to be compassionate with yourself. So this is a very spiritual group, I would say, and a group that's very much using their spiritual ability and their kind of relationship understanding to help others go through the dark night of the soul, that kind of thing, with great compassion and great love. Now, this could play out in that kind of work. It could also play out in any kind of workplace, any kind of family dynamic, any kind of friendship or love dynamic. But you're able to deal with the shadows and help other people do it because of your innate kindness, Pole 3. So let's get a little bit more information on it. We're going to look firstly at a little bit more about the hidden, then a little bit more about the compassionate. Then we're going to see how to best use these skills and what parts of your life they would most show up in at the moment in terms of what we'll get from tarot. So firstly, a little bit more from tarot about your skill now to really deal with the shadow and the depths. Death, Strength, the Chariot reversed, the Hanged Man, Page of Cups. Wow, it's really powerful. First four are all major arcana, and then we have a court card. So you are profound with this. And death, I mean, literally you could be a medium, you could go to the underworld, you can definitely deal with the lower levels, all of that kind of thing. And part of this is to give people the strength to make choices when they feel they've lost their way, when they feel stuck. So I think you're helping people on a very profound level, possibly across generational stuff, across things to do with sort of like spiritual karmic patterns, all of these things, major strength. And it may be that you've done a lot with yourself and this is now coming into doing it with others, that is different. Because I feel like this is a level of ability that it's sort of a bit odd to be saying it's a new gift arising in you, because it feels like you've always had it, but maybe you're remembering it now. And that strength is coming through. And maybe even a choice, or it could be that you've lost someone. Like for some of you, you could, and coming through the grief has connected you to that strength. You've reconnected with them very psychically and so forth, and understood that spiritually we're all one. But whatever it is, this is about getting unstuck for you and for others, but I think it's primarily for others, and helping with reconnecting to the heart. So it's very much connected to the compassionate, but it's like it's this capacity to be in this world which is stuck and needs and sacrifice and difficulty sort of exists, you know, to be able to look that in the face with strength, you know, and courage and move forward is the thing that brings in the heart. So it's a very powerful primary skill that's coming in, but even with it, it's recognizing that the heart is the key. So let's have a look at a little bit more about the compassionate. King of Wands reversed. Queen of Wands reversed. Okay. Emperor reversed. All right. Nine of Wands reversed. Justice reversed. Okay. All right. So, as is often the case when one is dealing with shadow, but needs to deal with it with love, there is something truly shadowy being dealt with. There is something that really has got things stuck. There is something where the capacity to do this is very necessary. For some of you, it's going to have been around a relationship. And my sense is, if it is, there was a power imbalance. And whether it's your relationship or whether it's a relationship you're helping others with, I'm not sure. But either way, there was a power imbalance. There could have been something there, but these are both reversed. So even though they're both wands, the Queen and King, they're reversed. And then we have the Emperor reversed. I think there was a very dominant, particularly male, or I'm not necessarily saying gender there, but sort of like divine masculine energy. It made it really hard. It was a really tricky sort of situation to be in. And something unjust happened. But that's why you have to have the compassion. This could be for some of you, if this is around family stuff, you may have had very difficult relationships with your parents, particularly maybe your father. But either way, something wasn't right. But that's where you learnt the compassion. I think you learnt it in something very early in your life. But there's something happening again like this. So this is why sometimes when we deal with the darkness, when we deal with the darkest personalities, and some of you may be doing that, you know, in your career or in some other aspect of your life, and being drawn to that, or shadowy people are being drawn to you, that kind of energy, it's because you're the one who has the strength with the heart to take this through. But that's why you need the compassion, because you've been burnt before, or you've seen people that you care about being burnt before, and there's something about what you're dealing with here that touches on all of that. And it's almost like you're dealing with people where there's been power struggles because they've been justified in some way by, you know, this is all about justice, or this is all right. This is really a strong energy of an environment or a group of people, or people who are misusing power. And if you are going to take them out of the shadows to do that, if that's, you know, you had therapeutic role, or if you are to like help others and get people connected with their heart, you have to be compassionate for them too. It reminds me of like writers who talk about, you know, writing thrillers or, you know, horror stories and things like that. And they go like, the bad guy never sees themselves as a bad guy. They think they're justified, and they are just a broken or twisted person normally. So there's something in here about being compassionate and even being able to love those who are behaving badly. That has to do with your gift. And it's where it shines brightest. Okay, so then let's ask how to best use these gifts, because it suggests to me that you're going to be drawn quite often into environments where this sort of energy exists, because it's your heart energy that could shift it. You're strong enough in a way that most people aren't. So let's see how best to use these gifts. Knight of Cups reversed. Seven of Pentacles reversed. The Moon reversed. Okay. This is saying protect your own heart. Look at it with heart and compassion, but protect your own heart. Be realistic about the people that you're dealing with. They're not going to be quite at your level. You may be able to sort of shift and help them or help others who've been dealing with it, but like be pragmatic. Also, do not stay too long in any situation. So if you say we're doing this as a therapist, do it for a while, but you'll know when the return on investment is no longer there, where everything has been uncovered that can be uncovered, and then set that person on their own path or to a new therapist or something like that. This is definitely saying that you stay with something until the mystery is uncovered, but none of this is you. Don't carry it with you. Be aware you're kind of being a heart to kind of illuminate this energy, but don't buy into the energy. Let's see the area in life where this might most manifest. The Hierophant reversed. The Knight of Swords. The Ten of Cups reversed. Okay. I do think this is either around sort of spiritual groups or probably more to the point around sort of work or power. There's a lot of power around this. So it's probably in unconventional places though. This doesn't feel like necessarily you're battling this out in a corporate environment or in a political environment. It feels more spiritual. But it's a spirituality that has no heart. It's a kind of heartless spirituality. It's a very much of the mind. So, it makes me sort of think of, the misuse of something like neuro-linguistic programming or something like that. There's a mental framework around some of this, but it's being misused. I'm not saying people always misuse that, but it's a very powerful tool and it can happen. So this is coming up in an environment where there is not good regulation around it, and where there is a lack of heart. And things just like kind of people just sort of like push through and argue. There's a lot about intellectual debate. I kind of got academia also there for some reason. Again, not saying all academia is like this, but it feels like for some of you it could be dealing with those sort of egos around something academic and having to like know that you just do what you need to do and then you move on. But to have compassion for these people because they're caught in sort of something and they've lost their sort of sense of heart. So it sort of depends, but it's not, I don't feel like for most of you this is in like your corridors of power politically or, in corporate sort of areas. It's a bit more unconventional, whatever this is. Okay, so let's have a look at it through the lens of different sorts of 3D things. So we're going to use the Heart Code Oracles to look at career, relationship, well-being and lifestyle. So firstly, for each of these, so we're going to get a card for each on each of those. So for the hidden, for dealing with the shadow elements, how would this play out potentially around career energies? Disapproval, okay. Yeah, so there is something, and you may have realised because you were disapproved of, or it might be what is disapproved of in this environment. It's just a lot of ego stuff around here. It may be same for some of you, if you sort of pick this energy up in a workplace, you're not going to be able to shift it per se. You just need to move on with and release it with heart. That could be what's going on. You've seen everything you need to, you're not going to be able to shift it. But you have these skills and you'll be able to use them in other environments. But there's your capacity to do this is not really understood in the work environment that well, I don't think. Let's have a look at the compassion side of it. Opportunity, okay. So this may actually tell you in a work environment to use these skills, you will see what is hidden. But if you are too open about it, it will meet with disapproval. If you, however, are compassionate about it and you look for connection, then there are opportunities to shift this through. So this is not the kind of the skill set of somebody who's meant to be in battle. You're meant to be compassionate. You're meant to be able to bring the heart to something. So let's see around relationship energy for the hidden. Criticism. Yeah, there's something. I do think for some of you there's been something around family and that kind of thing. There's been something, or the place you're in there, there's something that's just not right. You can see that it's not right. Workplace, friendships, family, whatever it is. There's power sort of stuff, all of that kind of thing. And I just think that if this was in your family, if you spoke up about what you saw, you'd be critiqued, you'd be disapproved of because they weren't ready to hear it. So all you can do is let go of that energy with compassion. So some of you may have been truth tellers in your family and suffered for it. But you still have this capacity for compassion. So how does that play out around relationships? Attraction. That'll attract the right people to you. So yeah, it's like you catch more flies with honey, as they say. Okay. Then let's see wellness. Wellness for you and wellness for others. Because there is something healing in this energy. So I think it kind of works on both levels. So around the hidden. Dental. Okay. All right. So that will tell me that for you or maybe others around, I think it's a kind of like grinding teeth tension. There's a tension energy. So it's when you feel and it may be dental sort of stuff, grinding your teeth. There may be other tells for you when you're tense, but that's telling you when something's coming to the surface. And around the compassion, getting into the heart energy. Headaches, okay. So yeah, your body's a very good barometer of this. If you're out of like touch with the compassion, and you're just in the tension, then yeah, you'll have tension headaches, tension sort of other ways of showing tension. This is, your body is a good barometer for you about whether you're able to get into the heart space to move past the shadow. So then around lifestyle, for the hidden, release, yeah, there's something that you have to shift and move on from, I do think. And around the compassion, suggestion, yeah. It's the power of suggestion, by being compassionate, by being caring, not by sort of like immediately sort of pushing against the energy or even like highlighting it too obviously. As I say, it's kind of like quite often when you're dealing with sort of difficult personalities or whatever, if you tell them the truth, the last thing they're going to do is listen. But if you are compassionate, then they may be open to suggestion. Okay, let's have a look at some spiritual gifts for each of those that accompany. So spiritual gifts that accompany the hidden, the capacity to be in the shadow that you have. Tarot card reader. Okay, so you may well be able to use these sorts of things to elucidate it. You may work with divination in some form and be able to deal with shadow work in a way that many people can't, because they're scared to go there, but also because, as I say, you can do it with kindness. Claire Gustance, clear tasting. Yeah, your body is a really good barometer for when something's not right. Pay attention to that. And indigo child, Amiga generation, born between 1998 and 2008. So you don't have to be born in those times. If you are, then it's a very strong confirmation you're an indigo child. But there's a few indigo child cards in this deck, and I just take it as an indication that, yes, there's a lot of spiritual gifts associated with this particular gift. Then in terms of the compassion, clairvoyance, clear seeing. Yeah, and that fits with all the colour energy there. You have clear seeing. You've got a lot of the clear senses, actually. Maybe all of them. Ascension path 4, warmth, ether, senses being realigned. Yeah, there's sort of like the warmth. The warm energy is what kind of helps ascend this, you know, your warmth and your heart. And like 4 is like home and family and the foundation of everything. So your heart is the foundation of everything. And then dark night of the soul, path of initiation. Yeah, because you can do that, you can help other people with compassion go through that. So I think some of you will work in that kind of area, either directly as a spiritual sort of therapist or, you know, a tarot card reader or something like that, or it's just something that you naturally do in the environments you're in. Okay, so let's get you a couple of wild cards, one for each of the gifts. So for the hidden again, for your capacity to be in the shadows. I am the key, opportunity, inner solutions, new beginnings. So yeah, there's something you are the key because you can do this in a way that other people can't. You have the strength and the capacity to go into the underworld, but you're also able to do it with compassion. And around the compassion, the wild card around that, I am winning, public recognition, career skills, talents, and success. You'll do really well. You'll do really well with this in whatever it is. So it's actually going to pay off for you big time. But it's because you're balancing those two energies. So if you've dealt with it before and you've been silenced, maybe in your childhood, that very set of skills which gives you the key is where you're going to win now, which is really powerful. Let's get you some stars to guide your way. Square, yeah, action is necessary, tension is necessary. You're in a tense space. That's also why the heart is necessary. This is not an easy pathway that you're choosing, but you have the skills and gifts for it. Then we have the 12th house. Yeah, all these mediumship, shadow, like very strongly there. Like, you would be brilliant with Jungian psychology, with depth psychology, all of that kind of thing. And Trine. Yeah, you can bring harmony. You can bring things into balance. Like the action of what is necessary, you go within and then you bring the harmony. That perfectly sums up who you are. Okay, so just to finish off pile 3, we're just going to get you a blessing that's around these gifts coming in. A blessing to heal a relationship. I think this might have come up before. I've done a couple of sets of readings today, so it might have been in the other one, I'm not sure. But in any case, this is, like, of course, healing relationships, not just one, though if there's one very core at the moment, you're going to be able to do that. But I think this is your gift anyway, your capacity to sort of heal, to not just bring things to the surface, but to heal because of that compassion, because of that heart. But yeah, it's connected to the underworld. It's connected to the shadow. So this is a profound set of gifts, and you are profoundly able to do it. And it is going to be very successful for you. But it has been a bit hard won, I think. So we need people like you in the world, so I'm very pleased to see it. I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.